The Zonal Puzzle. What is a zone and where does it fit in NA service?
This presentation is the result of a project request the Video Tools Workgroup received from the Northeast Zonal Forum Fellowship Development Committee.
Now let's take a quick look at the history of zones. In 1984, the first European Service Conference of NA was held in Dublin. This event was primarily a celebration of recovery, with some time set aside for informal reports from attending communities. This sharing of experience and information between communities outside of areas, regions, or world appears to be the earliest seed of zonal forums. Then in 1987, the first zonal forum met in the US, the Midwest Zonal Forum. From 1990 to 1993, 10 more zones formed around the world, starting with the Canadian Assembly. During that time, at the 1992 World Service Conference, a motion was made by Spain, seconded by San Diego Imperial, and passed that stated, "The World Service Conference affirms that zonal forums, as service-oriented sharing sessions that provide means by which NA communities can communicate, cooperate, and grow with one another, are valuable components of NA. We support the continued work of the zonal forums that exist today worldwide and encourage any further efforts NA communities may take to support one another." This was the first official recognition of zonal forums as valuable components and part of NA. With the value of zones becoming more apparent at the World Service Conference, they were recommended as an option for seating in 1996, allowed to give reports at the WSC in 1997, and added to the Guide to World Services in 2000. However, it took another 20 years before zonal forums were truly recognized at the WSC. In 2016, a motion passed that allowed zones to send a non-voting participant to the 2018 WSC. Then in 2018, a series of motions passed that allowed zones with 2 or more unseated regions or communities within them to be voting participants at the conference. However, since the conference often votes on matters regarding NA literature and intellectual property, they needed to be added to the FIPT, or Fellowship Intellectual Property Trust, which happened 5 years later in 2023. The result is that zones with 2 or more unseated regions or communities are equal to regions in voting rights and participation at the World Service Conference.
With all that said, though, what is a zone? Although zones in NA have been around since the mid-1980s, they have long been misunderstood and difficult to define for many. Unlike groups, areas, and regions, zones don't seem to follow any predetermined form, function, or even purpose. Even their original purpose varied by geography and culture. In the US, they formed to give regions a place to talk together. Outside of the US, they primarily formed to collaborate on services, especially fellowship development. So even in their beginning, there was no one-size-fits-all definition that appeared to apply.
In 1992, the Regional Service Representative Workgroup on Zonal Forums came back with this definition: a collection of regions which aggregate based on common needs. The development of a zone is based on the desire of regions within a geographic unit to participate in a forum focused on discussing issues of mutual concern. Development of zones will occur at different and varying rates based upon the needs of the regions within a geographic unit. Factors to consider in the formation of a zone include, but are not limited to, language, economics, geographic factors, etc. A zonal forum is focused on supporting the exchange of ideas, sharing of experience, and a networking philosophy. It is in that definition that we find the heart of zonal forums, a collection of regions and communities coming together based on common needs. With common needs being the underlying factor for zone, means that zones by their very definition are not meant to be alike. They are meant to form and evolve based on whatever supports their local regions, geography, communities, and culture best in serving our message. For some zonal forums, this means forming committees or work groups such as fellowship development, public relations, literature translation, hospitals and institutions, additional needs, or technology, to name a few. For some zonal forums, this means connecting unrepresented local communities at the World Service Conference. For all zonal forums, though, it is about being a place where we bring information and resources together to the benefit of local communities. While not all zones have committees or provide what many would consider services, all zones bring together resources greater than any one area or region has, typically in the form of information, knowledge, and experience. The collective experience, strength, hope, and knowledge of all the members in the zone can be utilized to help any area or region. It makes for a rich pool of knowledge from which to mentor and train. Even when a zone provides direct services to a service body or community, such as public relations presentation, the local NA communities are typically provided resources, information, and mentorship, coming away with the ability to be more effective than before. Much like regions, zones are meant to support the effectiveness of our local service bodies and sometimes collaborate on projects that are larger than or outside of their regions. However, because zones operate based on local geographic and cultural needs, unlike regions, they do not have a well-defined and recognizable structure. Underneath it all, zones exist to increase the resources available to their members and communities. They do not exist to duplicate services already provided by areas and regions. They exist to help strengthen the ability for our areas and regions to do what they do most effectively. So what are zonal forums? Information, resources, collaboration, and connection. They are the recognition that no one of us knows as much as all of us together do. That's their role in serving our message, and no two zones are meant to look alike because the needs of their local communities will not be exactly alike.
At the time of this presentation, there are 15 zones in Narcotics Anonymous. They are the Canadian Assembly, Western States Zonal Forum, Rocky Mountain Zonal Forum, Plains States Zonal Forum, Midwest Zonal Forum, Northeast Zonal Forum, Autonomy Zonal Forum, Southeast Zonal Forum, Southern Zonal Forum, Latin American Zonal Forum, Brazilian Zonal Forum, African Zonal Forum, European Delegates Meeting, Russian Zonal Forum, and Asia Pacific Forum. 8 of those are in the US, 7 are outside of the US. Here's a quick overview of the zones of the world as of January 2023. This shows when they formed and how many seated or unceded regions or communities they contain. There were regions seated at the 2023 World Service Conference, so some of the numbers may have changed. Please pause here if you want to read more. This is a current snapshot of the work that the zones around the world are doing as of January 2023. Again, pause here if you'd like to read in more detail. For more information about zones, please go to na.org/zones. That's na.org/zones. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and we hope that you have come away with a better understanding of what zonal forums are and where they fit in service in Narcotics Anonymous.